The ruined library dissolved into purple motes floating beside me, and now more motes were floating from across the blasted land space towards me, in spite of the wind. They came with the shame, guilt, and angst of broken ponies. The repair pony who neglected his wife and kids till they left him and died in Manhattan. The raider who let her foals starve to feed herself. The green unicorn twins' shameful incestuous relationship because neither could love another as much as they loved each other. More and more. Lacuna. Something missing. I'd thought that Lacuna had been a pony whose memories had been taken away. She wasn't. She was a collection of the pain and angst of hundreds of ponies. Their shame, their regret, their guilt. All collected into one vessel, sealed off and tossed into the one place they couldn't be heard. I wondered about such a being, stripped of all misery and doubt. No mistakes, no confusion. Suddenly, the stories of alicorns abroad being complete monsters made a whole lot more sense. With that, the motes were gone. So what, now? Is something supposed to happen? Are we done here? I asked as I turned around and looked at the windswept field. For once, I actually wanted the dealer to show up and provide me with a clue. Instead, I got a mirror. Slowly, I approached it. Just a simple standing mirror. A bit fancy. Maybe I'd seen it in Blue Blood Manor. Or maybe it was something that the countless memories were inside. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath as I trot towards it. Okay. Horrible mind rape or emotional crush time incoming. But bring it on. I stood before my battered, bloody, bleeding self. Okay, bring it on. Evil twin combat, mind messing, some horrible self-revelation. I can take it. But nothing. Just me. White-hide, two bright red eyes, clean. Goddesses, how long ago had it been since I was normal and muck, mud, and blood, and aberration? Neat security barding. Old normal pip-buck without the damned megaspell program inside of it. Happy. Goddesses, I looked so happy. Well fed. No worries but to deal with the next shift and the next game. I stared at my reflection. Really, what was the point of this? I narrowed my eyes, gritting my teeth. What? I get it. I was an idiot then. What's your point? I yelled at myself, then reared up and shoved the mirror back. It shattered. No, not the mirror. Me. And when I looked again, there was the mirror, and there was me. Bloody, battered, weak limbs. My one freakishly glowing eye stared back at me. Goddesses. Did I look this hurt to every pony? I turned, looking at the bullet hole scars dotting my hide, the ugly splash on my chest, the mar on my face. My hide looked like it was starting to become diseased. I was so dirty that I'd never actually cleaned again. The dirt and blood seemed part of my hide, mutated limbs bending before my very eyes, like I was turning into some sort of pony-leech hybrid. Even my teeth were glowing yellow, my ribs showing. I didn't even look like a stable pony anymore. I get it. I suck. I'm dying. What's the fucking point? I screamed, shoving it over again, and seeing myself shatter into bloody bits. The mirror, I don't want to look at it now. I was sick of this place. Sick of these mind games. Sick of always being hurt. The pony in the mirror. I screamed as I shoved the mirror away, clenching my eyes. I wasn't that. I wasn't going to be that. That pony belonged in a cave. I was going to be dead in 6 months, a year at most. Please, let me be dead. You still want to die, whispered a mare inside of me. It sounded like Trixie. I closed my eye, lifting my head as I fought the despair inside of me. Even after gardens, even after finding out about Marigold, I didn't want to live if it meant turning into that thing. I was becoming a monster, a bloody, brutalized, beaten monster. The wasteland was molding me into another Gorgon, or Deus, with all the finesse that sanguine could muster. I fought the sob in my throat. I'm scared. And that was it. Fear. I was afraid. Afraid I'd hurt my friends. Afraid of what I was becoming. Afraid of what would happen if I died. Better for me to hurry the process along. Fall apart. Push as long and hard as I could before I fell apart for good. Death was easier. I sobbed there, in that dark emptiness, ignoring the contents of the mirror as it wept too. I don't want to die. I don't want to become that thing, I said as I pointed at the mirror with a limp hoof. I want to live. Then live, Twilight murmured softly inside of me. Live for your friends. Live for gardens. Live for something you want to live for. Don't make my mistake. Don't live for something you hate. I sniffed, looking at the thing. It could barely look back at me. And what if... There was a moment of silence, and then Psalm said quietly, "That's what friends are for." I sat there for a moment, blubbering like an idiot. The fact that I was going to inevitably die young looked back at me. Twilight's taint was slowly and inevitably transforming me into something monstrous. "I'm sorry," I whispered to that thing in the mirror, to those mares inside me. There is no shame in fear. The shame is letting your fear control you. You have to keep faith, even when you're afraid. You've got to giggle at the ghosties, even when the laughing's the last thing you want to do. Don't let being afraid stop you from being awesome. Don't let fear turn you into a mean, hateful thing. Be honest with yourself. The lines never change nothing. Ante up. I finally looked at the thing that was once a happy, healthy mare inside. I'm going to be dead soon. Or I'm going to be a monster. And then I smiled a little. Well, guess I better make the time count. Now, how do I get out of Lacuna? Just ask, the mare replied, complete and whole within me. I heard a soft hum, my own humming, and I hummed along with myself. Maybe I was doomed. I was afraid. But I wouldn't let fear destroy me. I had too much to do. I gazed into Lacuna's eyes as they focused on my own. She blinked, then looked down at the lightning dancer holding me up. "Ah," she said delicately. "I assume there have been developments?" "You could say that," I said, and the yellow mare nodded and deftly placed me back in the wheelchair. "Thank you, Lacuna," I said as I settled back, looking up at her with a soft smile. "That last bit, with that mirror, that was you, wasn't it?" The alicorn fidgeted a little and gave a sheepish smile. "It only seemed right. You pulled me out of the dark pit and put me back together again." Virtue wasn't something inherent. The goddess and countless ponies within had shoved their flaws and weaknesses into the equivalent of a closet and created a mare who was gentle and kind, who had learned from her mistakes, who was better than them. You couldn't have empathy if you anesthetized yourself to the pain of others. You get a horn, and suddenly everything is all magical and mystical, Lightning Dancer said with a teasing grin, looking at Lacuna curiously. Clearly, anyone with wings was an okay pony to a Pegasus. "Yep. It's a great, mysterious world for us hornheads," I replied with a grin. Lacuna lifted me easily with her horn, adjusting me in the seat. I had to admit, I felt a bit foolish being lifted around like that. "Well, if you're done, I'll go wait for dusk. She's probably going to need some cloudberry wine and a good cry after all this," she said with a smile, and I rolled my eyes. The tougher the mare, the bigger the softy inside. Days must have been stuffed with that down fluff then. She trotted back towards Glory's room. "That is a very interesting mare," Lacuna said softly. "Ponies keep surprising me," I added with a smile. Then I looked at her. "I need to find P21, and Scotch, and Rampage. Push me? My horn isn't really working right now." I frowned, screwing up my face. There was a sparkle from the tip, like a zap, like a broken light bulb. I rolled my eye, looking at the char barely visible on top of my horn. Yep, still not working. I pouted. Stupid little defective horn. It took a bit of time to find them in the School of Literature. One classroom had been converted into a kitchen. The fare was distinctly basic, but beggars can't be choosers. Most of the eggheads sat around with books, talking about their ideas, problems, and plans. Scotch Tape stared at a sparkle cola, slowly going flat before her. P21 read an arcane science book as like his life depended on it. Rampage was explaining in exact detail the best way to snap a neck to two horrified-looking research mares. She gets turned into a filly, deals with a tech abomination, has at least 3 different mares inside her, and goes on without a tick. I owed her a hug later. Right now, I pointed at P21 and Lacuna stared me to his table. He glanced at me, glanced at the alicorn, and returned to reading with a focused stare that implied that either he didn't want to talk about it or he was trying to levitate with his earth pony magic. Somehow I doubted it was the latter. I didn't realize it was a problem for you, I said softly. Well, given that I didn't tell her, I would have thought you'd have picked up on it. Silly me, he said with an acidic tone. I suppose I deserved that. So, why is it a problem? He finally looked at me. Blackjack, what does the word father mean to you? I hadn't exactly thought about it. Well, when a buck and a mare love each other very much, I said lamely, but he clearly wasn't in the mood for jokes. Definitely in grumpy pony mode. I don't know, I'd never really thought about it. Textbooks told us that they helped mares care for foals back before the incident, and that we didn't need them anymore with the breeding cues. Well, to me it means sperm donor, he said flatly. I still don't see the problem, I said. He clearly fought to repress what he wanted to say. Then he said in low, even tones, Scotch Tape now thinks of me as family, as her father. He sighed and closed his eyes as he sat back. Her mother always went on and on about us being a family once we were out of the stable, living together, having more children, love. He sighed and rubbed his face. All I wanted to do was escape. Now she expects me to be a father to her. I doubt she even knows what that means, either. Maybe not, I replied softly. But here's what I do know. Over the last month, that filly has lost more than you or I. She lost her home, her mother, and today she lost her innocence. Now, maybe she doesn't have expectations of you that aren't fair, but you are twice her age and she needs all the help she can get. We're all she has in the world. You don't understand, he hissed, clenching his eyes shut as he rubbed his face. I can't be your father. I just can't. I'd seen that look in his eyes a few days ago. There was more to this than just unexpected relationships. All right, but I hope someday you can at least tell her why, I said softly. I wouldn't press further. Not right now, anyway. I could still see the angry ring around his neck. Nodded for Lacuna to wheel me over to Scotch Tape. The filly didn't look up from her bottle. Hey, Rubber Hoof Brigade coming through, I said as I wagged my limb limply at her. Wooga wooga wooga. She narrowed her eyes, leaning away from me. You're so weird, Blackjack. I'm trying to get you to smile, I replied. I'm not a foal, she said with a huff, returning her gaze to her soda. I glanced at P21, sitting in the same exact pose. Dear Celestia, their obstinacity was genetic. I gave her a flat look. I'll have you know that I have a body that tackled raiders, Enclave power armor, and monster ponies. Oh, now she was looking at me like I was disturbed. I grinned. So tackling you and tickling you till you cry probably isn't impossible. You wouldn't, she gasped. I did, and to hell with any pony who stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I didn't stop till she was laughing and gasping and begging for mercy. I was laughing too, and from across the room I thought I saw a ghost of a smile on P21's face. Thanks, Blackjack, she said softly, when she'd caught her breath, for caring. We all care about you, I said, as I shifted and shoved myself into an upright position against the wall next to the olive filly.